You now know how to retrieve data from a page, access the properties of controls, and transfer between pages. But quite often, you'll want the site to remember something the user has entered on a previous page after they move to a new page. In this lesson, you'll learn a few of the ways to send data from one page to another. First, open the C# test sample file from your sample files folder. Next, open passdata1.aspx in Design View. As you can see, there is a text box and a button on the page. You're going to write code that will send the contents of the text box to another page, which will then display it. If you use server.transfer to move between pages, you can actually access the page object of the previous page. Open the code behind file of passdata1.aspx and add the following code to the button send click event handler. page.server.transfer passdata2.aspx. View the page in your browser. Change the text in the text box if you wish, and then click Send to Next Page. As you can see, passdata2.aspx has picked up the data and displayed it, but because you used server.transfer, you still appear to be on passdata1.aspx. Close your browser and open the code behind file of passdata2.aspx. Here you can see the code that retrieves the text box text control from the previous page and sets the label control on this page to display its text property. It probably looks a little confusing at the moment. You won't be able to fully understand this code until you've completed Lesson 5.9. Page.PreviousPage is a link to the page object you came from. Find control text box text looks for the text box text control on the previous page. The page.PreviousPage method isn't widely used for passing data between pages. Most developers prefer to use the queryString method instead, which you'll try next. The main disadvantage of the page.PreviousPage method is that it only works if you use server.transfer to move to the target page. Using the server.transfer method means that the person using your site won't be aware that they've moved between pages. Sometimes that is exactly what you want, but most of the time you will need to use another method of passing data. The queryString method is the most widely used method of sending data between pages. While browsing the internet, you might have noticed that some web addresses have extra values after a question mark. The values after the question mark are queryString values, and you can use them to send data between pages. Return to the code behind file of passdata1.aspx. Remove your server.transfer line and replace it with the following code: page.response.redirect passdata3.aspx question mark text equals plus text box text dot text. View the page in your browser. Change the text in the text box if you wish. And then click the Send to Next Page button. As you can see, passdata3 has retrieved the text you entered and displayed it on the page. If you look at the address bar, you can see how the text was sent to passdata3.aspx. Close your browser and open the code behind file of passdata3.aspx. Here you can see that the text was retrieved using the page.request.queryString object. You'll fully understand this code later in this course after completing Lesson 7.1. Sending values with QueryString is one of the best ways to send values between pages when you don't mind exposing them to the user. The major disadvantage of QueryString is that the values can be very easily tampered with by the user. If you have, for example, a document ID value, the user could very easily change it in order to bypass security and access any document in the system. You could create a secure system using QueryString, but you would have to incorporate a way to check that the user has access to the resource they have requested. Note that there are other ways of moving data between pages. You could store values in cookies, or a database, or even use plain HTML forms, as you did in Lesson 2.12. You can also carry values between pages using Session, which you'll learn about in Lesson 3.12. You've now completed Lesson 3.11, Send Data Between Pages.